And so when we talk about technical founders, I think there's one, I mean, you could say at Miston Labs, when I was working in grants and ecosystem, I was working with technical founders. But that technical founder was learning the Move programming language, and they were building things for the Move ecosystem with SWE. That's a different technical founder than, for example, a founder that we're talking to who has an AI satellite imagery processing. Because telecommunications and satellites and any knowledge of what I'm learning now are called orbital solutions versus terrestrial solutions. That is a different kind of technical founder than a high potential software engineer that I think our current startup mindset is more used to working with.
Is, from your point of view, what's the number one problem we need to solve?
With which part?
Just in general, like number one problem we need to solve.
I think we've become accidentally anti-innovation in America.
Okay. So we need to the problem is make us more innovative.
Well, it's
the problem is we're not innovative enough.
Well, and it's less that, and it's more like I'll just share with you some of the things I've heard, like since our launch in Barklow and working with people from all over the board. When I say accidentally anti-innovation, what I mean is that people will kind of take on positions about future technology or whatever, that when you play it out, it's a mismatch for what they say they want to see in the world, right? So I'll give you an example. People will say things like, oh, that quantum computing stuff, right? I heard that the chips aren't ready, that the qubits aren't stable, right? And, we're years away from that. But if you play that out, there's a few issues with that, even if you're right. One, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, it's hard. It's going to take effort. It's going to take money, and it's going to take patience. So we don't try. So we don't learn. Like, you're going to wait 5 to 10. What are you going to do with 5 to 10 years? People are like, I don't think we have anything for 10 years. And my question to them is like, so what are you going to do for the next 10 years?
Obviously, you don't do anything. It'd be live longer than 10 years. Don't do nothing now. It'd be longer than 10 years.
Exactly. And it's just kind of like, but that's uniquely American, because in other countries, and by the way, there are 48 countries with these quantum and future forward initiatives, 47 of them not China, right? And there's 9 states, and not Washington State, right? And so I hear all this can't. It's expensive. It takes a long time. And it is everything from climate solutions to water desalination to quantum computing. There's just this big thing where it's almost like Americans have let their convenience mindset make them anti-innovation. I'll give you like a concrete example I saw just like yesterday, I think it was. There's this Forbes article talking about the 3 main challenges that quantum computing needs to overcome to go mainstream. It talks about, the logical qubits being fault tolerant working, the technical stuff, right? It didn't mention that, future computing and quantum computing and all that, there's 10 types of compute. Quantum is a type out of 10. Within quantum, there's 18 different data architectures. And so it's all of this, like the chip, the this, the that. So it's all or nothing. And it's like, well, what are those 48 countries working on? They're working, yeah, they know that, right? You're not gonna be able to microwave your way to addressing these challenges. And so it's like, it's going through all these challenges.
There's no Cliff Notes version, right?
Well, yeah, and I'm kind of like, well, yeah, there are challenges, and yeah, there's competition, but my thing is like, if you do the thing where it's like, wow, look at how hard this is. Guess we shouldn't work on it. Guess we shouldn't learn it because I saw this thing in Forbes, and then somebody else says that the stock price at IonQ is coming down. Guess we shouldn't try. Guess we should wait 10 years, and then you have 48 other countries.
They're not stopping.
Like, they're not stopping. And even like from a competition perspective, it's like, oh man, there's going to be all this competition. I'm just like,
of course.
So is that what your way of saying you're going to forfeit?
That's crazy.
But I don't think people can hear themselves when they say that. And that's why I say, what do you think is the problem? I'm like, I think that's the problem, is that we are now encountering technologies like quantum, which by the way is more than just computing. We're encountering these things that are going to change the way we see the universe. We're actually looking at technologies where it's not about the technology itself, it's about the realm of discovery they're going to open up for us. And other countries are treating all these different things as an imperative, and we're treating them as an investment class. Like, oh, does that match my time horizon? Oh, do I understand? Oh, this was my worst subject in school. Can't be real. And there's also a very weird thing that's like, I'm not a quantum expert. I don't read about future technologies, but I'm sure none of this is happening. And you're like, so you don't know anything. You're not going to learn anything, but you also know nobody else is either.
It makes no sense.
It's really weird, right? And it gets into kind of Daniel Kahneman's work. The economist, I guess he was more of a psychologist, blending economy, and he won the Nobel for this. He proved people are not as rational as they think they are.
No.
So a lot of these investors and stuff, that's not as rational as they think that.
Is there a way to solve this?
Curiosity, I think, is important.
But I mean, most people lose curiosity at the age of 19, I think, right? How do you make people be curious?
Well, I think that's the thing. What I would argue is that a lot of people live in the shadow side of curiosity. That's why we're into dystopian fiction and sci-fi things. I think, or like, why do people like Love Island? Morbid curiosity of some kind, right? Like, so people are curious. People are still nosy, right? I think that's the thing. Is I think sometimes like the mechanisms that we have to be involved in other people's lives or trends, whether it's movies or TV or fashion, all of that is driven by our curiosity. People would not follow trends if there wasn't curiosity at the core of that. It's just directing that to something probably a bit more relevant and significant and making it like match what I truly believe people do want to see the world change for the better. I just think that they're not aware of some of these mental traps that I just shared with you that make them that way, right? Like, people don't like change, but like better is change.
What's that meme? Are you ready for change? Yes. Are you ready for change? Oh no, not me.
Yeah.
Not me. These other people.
That goes
change,
to the
these other people, not me. I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't need to change.
Well, that gets into the convenience thing, right? Because really, like, the only difference between innovation and disruption is your awareness and your role. That's it. Because people say they want innovation, particularly out here. We want innovative solutions. Innovation is change. But the thing is that if you don't tackle change with that awareness and clarity, to whatever extent it is that you're going to participate in innovation, we're living in a time where to not participate in innovation is to sign up to be disrupted.
Yeah. Is there such thing as a problem that cannot be solved? Or all problems inherently solvable in some kind of way?
What people would say is, probabilistically in theory, there is always a solution when you run the numbers. Just kind of like there will eventually be a Powerball winner when you statistically, probabilistically run the numbers. Now, can you, I don't know, it's kind of, I think this to me is just kind of like theory and practice is kind of like science and engineering. Quantum is like this with quantum physics, right? There's all the theory, there's all like the science, but like all this stuff around computing, the qubits and the chips, that's the engineering, that's the applying it part, right? And I think it's very similar where, like, while there may be answers, solutions, whatever in theory, being able to operationalize them or put them in practice, or even find what I call a coalition of the willing to even try, that could be a completely separate issue.
Here's one for you. So throughout time, there's always been like a group of smart people, right? And they knew everything was, back in the day, the smartest people knew the Earth was the center of the universe. Back in the day, so every generation, the smartest people know, like back in the day, people knew leeches cured your disease, right? But now we know that they're incorrect, right? So the people were smart at the time, and now we think they're not so smart, right? Mm-hmm. So what do we know now today that in the future, people are like, what were they doing in the year 2025? Like, something we think is like completely true right now that you think is going to be like become a falsehood in the future?
I think it's less of a scientific one and more like a what were they thinking one is going to be like, people are going to inherit whatever planet we give them and whatever kind of like epigenetics and stuff we hand off to them from what we put in our bodies and how we operate today in some ways, right? And I think the one thing they're going to look back on and say, wow, like, people like basically volunteered for all these destructive things to their health and our resource health and the planet's health for money.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be...
That's a good one.
I think that's going to be the one. It's just like, there's just going to be a huge shock at, like, in some ways, how much we've sold out. Like, there's going to be a desire to be like, oh, but they didn't know any better.
Yeah, like 92% of the food they ate was processed. Like, all the vessels or the fruit had like pesticides on it,
Yeah, I think that there's going to be a future where somebody's going to say, let me get this straight. People were fundraising, like I said, for ribbons and cancer. Yeah. And, American life expectancy was collapsing. And people were getting cancer younger and younger. And they were having all these stomach problems and, all of that. and they were eating things like Oreos and Pop-Tarts where you need a chemistry lab to even make them.
Yeah.
And then they wondered why something was wrong.
Yeah. I think that's a good one.